Today's show is brought to you by Boomerang the Series. BET brings a young, gifted, and unapologetically black cast that is a lot like you. Original dramedy premieres Tuesday, February 12th at 10/9 Central. Only on BET.
This is Let Your Voice Be Heard, right here on WHCR 90.3 FM, the voice of Harlem.
We are back on Let Your Voice Be Heard on 90.3 FM, WHCR, the voice of Harlem. Facebook Live, what's going on? Selena's Instagram, don't talk to me. Just kidding. Harlem World, what's going on? If you're listening anywhere, from any time, at any place, and even on the podcast, I am happy to hear from you today. And who am I? Well, I'm Stanley Fritz, and I am on this show every week except for when I'm not here. And you can follow me on the Twitter at Stan Fritz. You can follow me on the IG at Stan Fritz. You can follow me on the Facebook at Stanley Goodhair Fritz because of a college mistake I made while trying to make fun of a friend for being obsessed with his hair. And on Snapchat, I don't use that. Sorry, guys.
Well, welcome to the show, everyone. Happy Sunday. Of course, this is Let Your Voice Be Heard, where we talk politics, social issues, pop culture, Cardi B, and we do that all from a diverse perspective. Of course, my name is Selena Hill, a.k.a. Miss Selena Hill, and that's an MS, and I'm happy just to be alive because stress will do it to you. Okay, I'm going to just leave that right there. Hey, Alyssa.
Hey, good morning. Happy Super Bowl Sunday.
Yes.
Happy boycott Super Bowl Sunday for those people who are still boycotting the Super Bowl.
Some people are just watching for the ads.
Yeah, you know, that's a thing. It is. Capitalism. It runs deep as white supremacy, and they're related. But, you know, maybe we'll get to talking about that kind of thing later. In any event, my name is Alyssa Fuchs, and you can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Alyssa Fuchs, or on Twitter at Alyssa Fuchs, or on Instagram, Alyssa.Fuchs. And, of course, you can also leave a comment on Politically Preposterous, which is facebook.com/Politically Preposterous, which is the fan page. But, you know, really definitely leave your comments on our Facebook live stream. We love that, and we'll definitely get to some of those comments later. I think we have a really good show today. We have so many news stories today, though. I can't even keep up.
There's so much going on.
But before we get there, shout out to Jackie Cohn. Happy birthday, the big 30.
Happy 30th birthday, Jackie.
Oh, wow. Jackie turned off my mic and she's not even here. J Money Stacks, happy birthday, beloved. I remember when I first met Jackie and she was 22 years old. And now she's 47. I am so happy for you, Jackie. You are old and you are ugly and you smell, but you're making it through life.
Hater. You can't even be nice on her birthday, Stanley.
Yeah, that's not nice, Stanley. You're not being nice. But then again, what else is new? So Jackie's not here, but we have our trusty correspondent, Tiffany Brown, here.
Hey.
Good morning, Tiff.
Good morning. Happy birthday, Jackie.
Hey.
Were you at her birthday party last night?
I wasn't. Sorry, girl.
I was at the birthday party.
Alyssa was there.
It was really good, and Gary and I'm going to screw up her mom's name because it's kind of like mine, and then I just screw it up and say it like mine. But Alicia was there, and they were a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun with them, and now I'm going to get feedback that I still screwed up her name. But love you, Jackie's mom, even though I always kind of confuse her name with mine.
That's why I stick with Miss and Mr. Cohen. Like, seriously.
She loves me more than all of you. And she loves me more than Jackie, too, so it's cool.
You're their adopted black son.
Yeah.
So we have a great show lined up today. We're going to be talking about everything from the prison conditions. We know that right here in Brooklyn, people in prison had no heat or no water for a week. Stanley was there protesting on behalf of these incarcerated people, so we're going to talk about that. Then we're going to speak in depth about Jesse Smollett, who we know was physically attacked a few days ago. Just homophobia and racism is running rampant in our country, as it always has. And we're going to take a deep dive into what it really means to be a black gay man in America. So we have a lot to talk about.
We do.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. I don't want to spoil any of the other news stories, but we're going to be talking about, hopefully, some Cardi B, because I just want to say really quickly, her commercial for Pepsi is so on point. Like, I was the first to blast Pepsi when they had that horrible Black Lives Matter commercial where Kendall Jenner tried to stop racism and white supremacy with a Pepsi can. But I want to say I think Pepsi got it right this time. Their new Pepsi commercial features Lil Jon and Cardi B. It's hilarious. Make sure you guys watch it. It's all over Twitter. You don't have to watch the Super Bowl to watch it. It's going to be on the internet as well. So just want to give that shout out.
Everything's on the internet. Nothing ever dies on the
internet.
internet.
Are any of you guys going to be watching the Super Bowl today at all?
I don't know. I'm still on the fence about this. On some level, I kind of want to watch it.
Yeah,
but
me too.
Not really like for the football, because I don't really care about that, to be honest, because I'm a Jets fan, and the Jets are awful, and they're never going to the Super Bowl, like, ever. I kind of want to watch it, like, for, like, the drama of, like, what people are going to be talking about tomorrow.
Right.
Whether it's, like, the commercials, or, like, something crazy happens, like Janet Jackson's titty comes out. I don't know. Oh, wait, that only happens once.
Can we say that on there?
Yeah.
Probably not.
I will find out now.
You can say the T word?
I believe so.
What's up? Tiff, are you watching it?
It will be on in my house. But I won't be watching it. Okay, but it will be on.
Okay, no, that's the like. I just want to see. I just want to watch it so that I can accurately blast Travis Scott for participating.
That's fair.
Okay, that's the only reason why. Because
That's the only reason? Okay.
oh yeah, that's it. So that's it right there.
Yeah, I will not be watching the Super Bowl. I have not watched football in 2 years now. I didn't watch last year's Super Bowl. I'm not going to watch this year's Super Bowl.
Because you're a real activist.
No, I just don't care. And it's not even about Colin Kaepernick anymore. What about Josh Brown, the kicker for the Giants, who beat up his wife, and in his diary said he thought he was God, and that he would kill his wife, and the Giants owner said, well, you know what, we stand by him. What about all the women abusers who are in the NFL now that the NFL doesn't give a damn about because they are productive?
What about the CTE issue where so many retired players are either hooked on opioids or literally killing themselves because their brains are turning into much?
Exactly.
Yeah, there's a lot. So, I definitely respect all those who have been taking a knee, standing with Cap, or just protesting the Super Bowl and the NFL in general. I will say that they have made some progress. For the first time, they're going to have 2 male cheerleaders performing at the Super Bowl game. No, the cheerleaders don't have CTE, but it's honestly, so they were talking about how, the NFL has really perpetuated toxic masculinity. So it seems like they're trying to make some progress. And it's so funny because we're going to talk in depth about toxic masculinity and what that means here in America. So again, guys, don't go away. This is Let Your Voice Be Heard. Make sure if you guys want to chime in and call us up, you can do so at 212-650-6903.
My people, Boomerang is coming. Tuesday, February 12th. It's lit for Black History Month. And you know it's going to be on BET. But for real though, how is it different from the film of the same name? Well, let's get into it. First off, it's a scripted half-hour dramedy. It's not a movie. Secondly, we're introduced to Graham Legacy. What Graham Legacy? Well, Simone Graham, the daughter of Marcus and Angela. She's a headstrong, gorgeous, uncompromising queen. Her colleague and guy bestie Bryson is the son of Jacqueline Boyer. Remember her? Shorty with the lingerie and trench coat? Yeah, that's who we're talking about. Bryson has a vision for making his mark in the business, but he has his eye on Simone as well. Listen, man, shoot your shot, king. Ari is an emerging director who walks on the wild side. David is a pastor who has yet to get over Crystal, Simone's best girlfriend. Tia is a firecracker of the crew, ready to break big with the help of Simone's marketing genius. You'll see some of your friends and a lot of yourself on screen. Well, I don't know about me, but you will. Boomerang, executive produced by Lena Wraith and Halle Berry, premieres Tuesday, February 12th at 10/9 Central on BET. Check out BET.com for show exclusives.
Stanley, don't quit your day job.
Yeah, I'm not sure where to go from there. But yeah, guys, this is Let Your Voice Be Heard again, where we talk politics, social issues, and pop culture from a very diverse perspective. Again, my name is Selena Hill. I'm here with my co-host Stanley Fritz, Alyssa Fuchs, and our correspondent Tiffany Brown. And also shout out to Dejanay, who has been interning with us for the last 5 months, and now today is her last day, so we're going to be very sad. I mean, I'm not applauding that.
I'm applauding that she's going on to bigger and better.
Yes, bigger and better. She is going on to bigger and better. Okay, so we have a lot to talk about. We actually have a caller on the line, and we're going to start the news roundup talking about, again, the situation that's going on in the federal prison in Brooklyn. We know that incarcerated people in this prison have not received electricity, light, or heat. And this was a time where we had the polar vortex. So it's been extremely cold here in New York City. And this is inhumane. So Stanley, I know you were there at this protest yesterday. Can you just talk really briefly what this protest was about and why do you think it made a difference?
So first thing we have to talk about is the fact that there's heat insecurity in jails and prisons all across the state, and at the moment, the Metropolitan Detention Center has hit the forefront of what's happening because the people there have not had any kind of heat or light for the last 8 days. They've also been blocked from viewing their loved ones or talking to them on the phone and been held in their cells 23 hours a day. And folks caught wind of that, an issue that Congresswoman Nydia Velasquez has been fighting with the censor with for years. Kind of got viral, and folks went over to show support, and it's blown up into this huge action where folks are actually occupying the space now and demanding that and saying they're going to stay there until light and heat is restored. So we do have a caller on the line right now, Cassidy, a good friend of mine, Cassidy, who is a part of the Justice League and who has been on the ground there for the last 2 days, and she's going to give us an update about what's happening now. Cassidy, go ahead.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
Thank you.
It's a little warmer today, which is a relief. I got here yesterday around noon with family, and the first thing I noticed was banging on the windows from literally every window in the prison. It was really overwhelming and emotional to hear people just basically begging for someone to pay attention and for someone to hear them. We had a number of elected officials, including Congresswoman Velasquez, Jumaane Williams, who's running for public advocate, was a former city councilman. Jerry Nadler, a number of elected officials went into the building yesterday and spoke to the warden. And what they came out reporting was very cold temperatures. We heard 33 degrees in one cell. We heard about a lack of concern for the inmates' well-being and medical issues from the warden, who claimed he wasn't aware of any medical issues. And so these are things that we heard from elected officials who went inside the prison, yet still, the jail, because it is not a prison. These are people who are awaiting trial. And still, the Bureau of Prisons is putting out messaging that the heat is on and everything's fine and people have electricity. So this is very concerning. We've been out here since noon yesterday. We camped out. And another thing that I'd just like to add is that we noticed a number of ambulances leaving MCD detention facility last night. Throughout the night, there was several ambulances leaving. So we are hopeful that means that some of these medical cases have actually gotten attention. And we know that our protest yesterday did achieve one important goal, which is that lawyers, legal counsel, are now allowed back in the building. They haven't even allowed lawyers into the building.
Cassidy.
They're going to allow legal counsel into the building, and we're waiting to hear what they get back out today.
Cassidy, I want to just say thank you so much for correcting me. I kept calling it a prison, and it is a jail, so thank you for just clarifying that. So I've been reading that I think that electricity will be restored back into the jail as early as tomorrow, and it sounded like there was just this happened because there was an accident, and I think there was a fire that broke out. Can you just talk about for someone who's on the outside, it just seems like it was something that was very unfortunate that happened. Do you think that this points to larger systematic issues?
Yeah, I think it does, and there's two reasons for that. The first reason is because all facilities have to have emergency evacuation plans. And so when this facility became unsuitable for human habitation, people should have been transferred to other facilities, and there are plans for that to happen. And so it's unclear why that didn't happen, except for there seems to be an apparent lack of concern and even denial that there's even an issue coming from the administration of that facility. And sorry, I haven't slept a lot, so I'm sort of...
Hey.
Incidences at this facility. I know there was some correctional officers who were charged with rampant sexual abuse a couple years ago, and there's been a number of things happening over the years. So this isn't a facility where this is the first time anything has happened.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I appreciate that. I'm actually a civil rights lawyer. I've dealt with numerous issues that have come to light at the facility from time to time, even actually before I have the current job that I have now, because I did work as a assistant to, or actually I should say a lawyer associate for a CJA attorney doing federal criminal defense representation, and there's been problems with that facility in particular for a while. But another thing that I really wanted to point out, and Jackie Cohn, thank you, she says that I reminded her last night that what is happening at MDC is not unique to correctional facilities across the state. It's actually the norm. And that's the point I was making to Stanley. Like, right now, this is at the forefront of our consciousness because everybody's hearing about it. The elected officials are out there. There was obviously this issue with the fire and a power outage and all these things. There's the blame game about who's responsible, what's going on, and how long it's going to take to fix. But adequate heat and cooling issues are not unique. In fact, we have a very large prison system in the state of New York. Many of our prisons are upstate. Some of them are up by the Canadian border where it is extremely, extremely cold. Upstate, it was like negative 30 degrees earlier this week when we had the polar vortex. And, you know, we also have had inadequate heating and cooling issues at our our local facilities such as Rikers Island and the boat jail, which is VCBC or the Vernon C. Bain Center, for a very, very long time. And so it is really good that people are focusing on this issue and that it's in people's consciousness, but it is also a situation where people need to realize that this is a tree and that the forest is much bigger. And when we get outside of New York State, we look at places like prisons in the South where they have inadequate cooling problems, and it can be 110 degrees inside of a cell during the summer. So, you know, if this is an issue that people really want to be focusing on, and it should be, then we also have to realize that there's a much broader systemic issue going on here about how people in prisons and jails are treated.
On that note, I just want to thank Cassidy again for calling into the show today, as well as for your activism. If you want to just let people know how they can reach you and support this cause really quickly.
Yeah, thank you. If you follow at NY Justice League on Twitter, we will be giving updates throughout the day. Like I said, we expect to hear from folks who are going inside the building today. So we're looking forward to hearing what they have to say. And we'll be out there. We're having the Justice Bowl, since today is Super Bowl Sunday and none of us are watching football. We're going to have the Justice Bowl in front of the MDC Detention Center in Brooklyn from noon to 6 p.m. And you can find out more details, the address, and everything at NY Justice League on Twitter.
Okay, thank you so much for that. And just to move things right along, the 2020 presidential race is heating up, guys. Cory Booker finally officially threw his hat into the race. We have Kamala Harris, a number of women who are running. Seems to be one of the most diverse races that we've seen, possibly in history. Tiffany, I want to get your thoughts on, we got Cory, got Kamala. If you had to vote today, Kamala, excuse me. I'm
we
sorry.
went over this last week.
No, it's Kamala.
Kamala, get it right.
She told us with her little video. I'm excited for this race. I know there's been a lot of people who are really concerned about Kamala's. Oh gosh, I feel like a white person. That just confuses all black people. No shit, but it's just like, I know a lot of people have been concerned about her record as well as Cory Booker's record, but I do think it's going to be interesting, even with Kristen jumping in there and possibly Beto. But I'm excited to see everyone and what their policies are going to be, because I feel like I don't want this to be a repeat of what we saw in 2016, where there was like a wide field of Republican candidates, and then you're still going to end up with Trump in some way, because I do think they're going to divide the vote significantly.
And speaking of dividing the vote, we know that Howard Schultz, the CEO of Starbucks, has also jumped in. He's running independent. A lot of progressives are saying he's also going to divide the vote. Alyssa, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, look, this is interesting because I don't know, he could end up dividing the Democratic vote, but he could also end up dividing the Republican vote, right? Because if you have a number of moderates that are not going to vote for Donald Trump, they may end up voting for a more moderate. It's going to be a really interesting election because there's so many different people jumping in. I will say one thing about Senator Harris, which, see, that's how we avoid this issue with her first name. Right. Is I saw a video yesterday that was super concerning about her locking up parents for truancy, like when the kids didn't come to class, and she was like laughing about it as if it was funny, and she was trying to make the point that the issue she was trying to fix was to make sure that low-income communities of color got education. But I don't know if locking up the parents of people who don't send their kids to school on time or miss a few days of school because they're dealing with other issues is really the right approach to that. And the fact that, like, when she was giving that lecture, she sort of like was finding it funny in some ways was like extremely concerning to me. And obviously I made my comments last week about this, so I won't rehash them. Go back and listen to last week's show. But I don't know. That just really got under my skin.
Well, Kamala's going to have to answer for all of this when, we start to have debates. But the fact that you would think that the best way to help a kid who is missing a lot of schools is to destabilize what probably is already an unstable situation is just ridiculous. And it shows just how strong and prevalent racism is in the criminal justice system, and how someone who claims to be an ally, someone who should be an ally, if for nothing else, the color of their skin, can very easily fall into it. That's not helpful at all.
And last week when we talked about Kamala Harris, we talked about how she, as an attorney general, she was put in a very tough position. She was the first black person, I think, in California, the first woman. She was the first everything. And we know that in itself, she's fighting a system of white supremacy internally. But I want to say that if you look at Attorney General Mosby in Baltimore, what she's doing as that state prosecutor, she announced that she is no longer prosecuting any cases of anyone who was caught in possession of marijuana, no matter the size, no matter anything. She's literally standing up for the laws. Standing up against the law in the state. So I'm like, look, when you have someone like Miss Mosby compared to Kamala, like when I get it. It's a tough position to be in, but where's your moral compass? Go ahead.
No, so that's kudos to Prosecutor Mosley for doing that. However, let's lift the hood up under, and most of these DAs will do stuff like that that's really shiny and nice, but once you lift up the hood, you see they're doing a lot of problematic things. So I want to get more information on that.
DA's going to prosecute. That's what a DA does. So, that's the job of a district attorney. If we want to rethink how we have our criminal justice system in this country, then, we should rethink it all together. But at least as far as the way the criminal justice system works now is DA going to prosecute, because that's what DAs do.
And she's choosing not to prosecute those cases because it disproportionately hurts black and brown communities. So shout out to Mosby. Look into her record, Stanley, because she's been fighting and an ally for a long time. I know we do want to move on. We have a lot of stories. Alyssa, go ahead.
No, one of the most interesting stories that I think from this week is about what's going on in Virginia. With the whole controversy over, whether the governor did or didn't wear blackface, or whether that's him and whether he should resign. And that's all pretty interesting. There's just been so many stories this week, and then all this dangerous weather, and it's just I can't even keep up.
Let's hang out on the governor thing. So for those of you who don't know, the governor of Virginia, Ralph Northam, there was a picture that they found in his yearbook in a page dedicated to him from medical school, in which he was in blackface or in a Klan hoodie. He was one of the people. We're not sure who. Friday night, he apologized for it and said he was wrong. Saturday morning, he said that I don't know if it was me, and I was trying to look like Michael Jackson, and then he offered to do the moonwalk. And a lot of people are saying that he should resign. A lot of people are outraged. A lot of people are surprised. I don't know why people are surprised. I always say don't trust a white person unless you have vetted them personally, or someone you trust has vetted them. And every white person, no matter how good or bad, has the potential to be racist, because racism is air in America.
Well, I'll say this. A lot of people, especially those of color who have been very supportive of him as governor, they said they are regrettably calling for his resignation. It pains them in their heart. So, Tiffany, really quickly before we go to break.
I think it's unfortunate how much...
it was 30 years ago. Do you think he should resign?
No, because I feel like it was in the 80s. Even in the 80s, you knew blackface was wrong. And if you look at that history of that yearbook, I think it was called Corks and Curls, which a lot of people are saying has racial undertones that were attached to it. And there's several pictures of people in that yearbook in blackface. And I think he was also warning us about the whole moonwalk. The fact that he was about to do it, and his wife was like, no. Do you not understand that you should not be shucking and jiving right now? What part are you not getting? And we're seeing more and more, we had an incident, I think it was a college, I can't remember the name, where these two girls were in blackface the first day of Black History Month. I think it's pretty ridiculous. It's a lot of tone deafness, and someone said that people wear blackface as if we are black people, our costumes, and I think it devalues and take away our humanity, and they're able to treat us the way they treat us. That's why it's okay for jails to not have heat. It's okay for NYCHA to be falling apart, because a lot of times they don't look at black people as actual people, but as costumes.
Well, I want to read a comment that Jackie just mentioned. You got it, Alyssa? All right, sorry.
Yeah. So
it's her job.
Jackie says, the prediction of a friend of ours who lives in rural Virginia says he thinks Republicans in Virginia will use this photo to say that Democrats can't call Republicans racist anymore. And that's really interesting because, they shouldn't do that because Republicans, well, not all of them.
Republicans are racist, and white people are naive enough to be like, well, you know what? The Republicans are right. So work on your white people.
Before we go to break, we also have one...
The party has a capital on racism. Just saying.
Absolutely. Before we go to break, we have one final comment from Don L., who says, no one is perfect. We grow and do better or worse in life.
That's a good point. But on that note, we do have to take a break. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, we're talking about homophobia and racism. This is America and that horrible attack on Jussie Smollett.
And we are back on Let Your Voice Be Heard on 90.3 FM WHCR, the voice of Harlem. If you were just tuning in, this is Stanley Fritz. I'm here with the queen, Tiffany with the good pension. Hello, beloved. We also have Alyssa Fuchs right here in the studio with us. And, of course, the fearless leader, Selena. I'm addicted to Instagram hell. And, of course, guys, if you want to know who else is in the room with us, we have the immaculate interns of Deja Nay. And it's her last day, and she's got a doo-doo brown Scully on, but it looks nice. And, of course, we got Omar the God in here, hailing from Brooklyn. Came all the way on the 3 train, didn't get to the studio, and had to walk 15 blocks to find the actual place. I don't know if that happened, but it sounded really cool.
I mean, I don't know. The MTA is like that. So
yeah, right? Seriously.
The MTA be like, if you need to get to Brooklyn, take the bus to the Titanic, and then maybe you'll get there on the rocket ship or the Long Island Railroad.
MTA, they were like, I don't know, though. It's going to be rough out here. You got Uber money? I don't know. One time I was in the train. The conductor was like, yo, you want to split a lift? I was like, what?
That Uber just got more expensive, too.
Yes, it did. The surcharges have went up.
Thanks, Jackie.
Yeah. But you know what? The surcharges have gone up, but now these drivers are going to be getting paid, not a living wage, but they will be getting paid a better wage.
Hold on. They don't like it. The drivers are saying this is going to affect their business, especially taxi drivers.
Listen, man, I ain't got nothing to do with this, okay? I ain't fight that
Pick up black people. We wouldn't be in this position.
Exactly. Well, yo, that's a fact. I would never take Uber. The yellow cab would just stop for me. But you know what? This is just another example of what it means to be a black man in America. And speaking of what it means to be a black man in America, we actually have a story that helps us unpack the multiple layers of being a black man in America. I am a straight black man, and the way that I show up in this world tends to be different depending on who I am engaging with. When I'm around white women, personally, I just get nervous because there's always an implication that I can go to jail or prison for, breathing on a white woman, looking at a white woman, or apparently attacking a white woman because that's the thing that white people are afraid is going to happen. The police look at me in a certain way, and I look at them in a certain way, and as a black man, I am always conscious of just my blackness and my manliness and my masculinity and how the world may react to it. But what happens if you are a black man who is stepping into this world not only as black, but someone who is maybe not a straight black person? So it is not what we would call the quote-unquote traditional standards and expectations of what we would have for black men. What if you were a gay black man? What if you were a gay black man with a high profile?
Or non-binary and not even a man.
Yeah, or a non-binary person and not even identifying as a man. What if you were somebody who maybe was a bit of a celebrity and have done activism work? How would you show up into these streets? How would you show up in these conversations? And also, how would people show up to you? Well, for Empire actor Jussie Smollett, they showed up with violence. So as I'm sure most of you have already heard by now, Empire actor Jussie Smollett reported to the police that he was attacked by 2 people who called him the F word. No, not the F-U, that word, but the F-A word. They also attacked him, wrapped a noose around his neck, and poured a substance on him that many people are assuming now was bleach. He suffered some bruises on his face as well as a broken rib, and he went to the police in the hospital on his own.
And they called him the N-word, too.
Yes, thank you. They called him the N-word, and they also said that this was MAGA country. And a lot of people have really been, feigning shock, in my opinion, about the fact that something like this could still be happening today. But for a lot of us, this is not surprising. The only extra sauce on there, if you're a straight person, is the fact that they attacked him over his sexuality. But that is a reality for a lot of people, especially people in the LGBTQIA community. And on this episode of Let Your Voice Be Heard, we really want to have a conversation where we start to unpack and have that conversation of like what it means to be someone who is not just double conscious, but almost triple conscious because of your status in this world. So before we even get into dig deep into the conversation, I want to start to get reactions from folks of what you thought and what you felt when you first heard this. I want to start with Tiffany.
I was really shocked when I heard the story, partly because I'm like, here's a celebrity in Chicago, and he just gets brutally attacked the way it's being reported. So I was really shocked that, not that celebrities can't get attacked, but it was just so like, whoa, like this is real. And like racism and homophobia can attack anyone and everyone. It does not spare whether you're a celebrity or you're just, an average, trans woman walking down the block.
Selena, go ahead.
At first, I thought it was really hard to believe that something this horrible would happen, especially in a progressive city like Chicago. I mean, if you think about it, it was on a night where temperatures were below freezing, and you actually had someone who was walking around with bleach and a noose, waiting for a victim. So I'm just like,
That was wild.
Yeah, it sounded like a really wild tale, right? So then, and then I started looking into it, and even though Chicago is this metropolitan city, it turns out that in 2017, Chicago police documented 41 hate crimes, 16 based on race and ethnicity, 8 based on sexual orientation or gender identity, and 17 regarding religion. So it shows that hate has no boundary. It can live anywhere, and it actually does live everywhere, especially here in, America. And another thing that really shocked me is that they were reportedly screaming out MAGA country. And it turns out that Chicago Trump only received 12.5% of the vote in Chicago as a state itself. So it's like, where are these people, like, how delusional are you to think that you're surrounded in like almost like this progressive bubble, but you're going around to talk about how this is MAGA country. So I just thought they were delusional.
I mean, I don't necessarily think that's true. As somebody who, obviously I'm not black, but I am queer. And as somebody who is queer, like, it is no surprise that there are so many hate-related incidents related to LGBT people. And it's also equally not surprising that when you are essentially a double minority, when you are both a queer person or a gay person, I use queer as sort of the umbrella term because it's broad, but it can encompass both somebody who is gender nonconforming or somebody who has a sexuality that is not quote unquote straight. You are more at risk to be the victim of some kind of hate crime. And just to give you some additional numbers, because I know you gave us the number for Chicago, but the FBI actually released hate crime statistics for 2017. That's the last year they have numbers for. The numbers for this year have not come out yet. They revealed a disturbing 17% increase in reported hate crimes from the previous year. In 2017, there was 7,175 hate crimes incidents reported. 1,130 of those were based on sexual orientation bias, 119 on gender identity bias. This is a large increase from 2016. And of course, unfortunately, it's not only LGBTQ identities that are caught up in this epidemic of violence. Bias-motivated crimes, such as those based on race, religion, disability, and gender, all increased. The FBI reported that anti-black hate crimes increased by 16% from 1,739 incidents in 2016 to 2,013 incidents in 2017. Hate crimes targeting black people represent 28% of all reported hate crimes in 2017.
So we have a great comment from Claudia Laurent who says, "It's a shame, but what's more shameful are the people who don't believe Jesse and say he is lying." That's a great comment, Claudia. She left that on our Facebook Live. If you guys want to chime in, be sure to do the same thing. I mean, you're right. I mean, there are people who are calling him a liar. I will personally, admittedly say that it was hard to believe at first for me.
Well, let's sit on that for a little bit because, yeah, I've heard a lot of that too. For me, it's, the story seemed like very okay, a little bit out of the ordinary. I'll say that. But what's his incentive to lie? That's where I stand at. So that's where I am with him. But that's a real feeling that people have. So I want to hear what you guys think. Tiffany, then Alyssa.
When I first heard the story, I was like, what is the purpose of him lying? I was like, he's rich, he has money, he's a very popular show. What what would he gain by lying? But then there was more backstory saying how he was receiving like death threats or like mail that was sent to, I think, the production company. And additionally, I was like following this weird conservative like right-wing group, and it was like there's always just this push to not believe a person of color or a black person. Like initially, whether it's you see them getting shot by police or being assaulted, it's always like, well, what did he do to initiate this? And it was like this notion, oh, he was going to buy drugs, or he was going to do this. And it's like, why can't we ever have the benefit of the doubt off the bat? Like, why would he have the purpose to lie? Especially when we just heard about stories of an older black man and a young black man that died in our home. His name is Ed Buck's home, and everyone's like these stories are happening to queer people. Like they are being attacked and killed at like high rates, and no one's talking about it. No one's addressing it. It's always this initial thing, like, no, we have to question this.
Yeah, I mean, look, right here in New York City, which is considered a very progressive space, we had 2 women attacked on a subway train, one of whom suffered a very serious fracture to her back based on the fact that some guy thought that they were lesbians. He didn't even know whether they were lesbians or not, but thought that they were lesbians. So, on that note, I think we have to take a quick break. I know we're getting a lot of really great comments, and we will definitely get to those comments as soon as we get back. Stanley?
Guys, go on a quick break. Let your voice be heard.
I'm a gorilla in the coop, finna pull up in the zoo. I'm like Chief Keep Me Rafiki, who been lying king to you.
And we are back on Let Your Voice Be Heard on 90.3 FM WHCR, the voice of Harlem. I was going to say something ignorant, but I couldn't think of anything. So I guess it wasn't ignorant if I had to think about it, right? But anyways, guys, we are here. We are talking about the attacks against Jussie Smollett and what it means to be a black gay man in America, or just someone who is an LGBTQIA in America in 2019 and living under Trump's American government. So we already gave our reactions, but what I wanted to ask also is, why do you think people are doing this? What is motivating these attacks? And I know we had some comments that seem to try to answer that question.
Right. So Claudia says Trump made these people come out from hiding, and they feel that they are free and have the right to express their hate openly and physically. Donnell says, unfortunately, we are affected by the media, which seems to expand on these crimes as we share, even though we need to know that these actions are happening. And also says, unfortunately, everyone feels that they have the right to express love and hate, no matter what, period. Thank you guys so much for those comments. Just for like me personally, I think that on one level, yes, Trump has something to do with this. Obviously, people feel emboldened by his election to come out and say and do hateful things. But I think that those things always existed. These people, they always believed those things. They were always anti-gay. They didn't just develop those thoughts because Trump got elected. People that are racist were racist before Trump, and they're going to be racist after. And people who are anti-gay, and I hate using the term homophobic because you're not scared, you're just not a good person, they are going to be anti-gay and anti-queer and anti-trans then and now and even after. So on some level, I think this is much deeper than that. But for me personally, it's sort of like it has had an effect in that, when I was single, I didn't really worry about these things too much. And I didn't really worry about these things too much a lot before 2016. Now that I have a great girlfriend, we walk around, we hold hands, it sort of worries me sometimes. I'm like, I don't know. Now people I'm obviously gay. So people knew I was gay when I was walking down the street before, but now it's I feel like in some ways I'm putting myself more at risk, and I don't want to do that. But I also I don't want to feel uncomfortable walking down the street holding my girlfriend's hand because I want to do that.
Let me just also say on another note that Alyssa's girlfriend is awesome and amazing, and we all love her. So that's not useful to anyone, but I just want to say that. Selena, Tiff, why do you think this is happening?
I think it's simple. It's hate, it's fear, it's ignorance. As Alyssa's point, homophobia and racism, white supremacy, it didn't start with Trump, and it's not going to end with him. Yes, he has energized and emboldened violence. He is a bully himself, and he encourages bullying behavior. He has said in public arenas that cops should rough up, they should rough up people who are being arrested. And to me, that the racial undertones of that just spoke white cop, black or brown person. And we've seen how those scenarios end, usually with that unarmed black or brown person dying. And I would just say that another thing that I'm seeing a lot on the internet, there was actually some back and forth between people saying, did this happen because he was gay, or did this happen because he was black? And honestly, I see some black activists actually arguing over it, and I thought that was really interesting on Twitter because they were going back and forth.
They were going back and forth over like whether it was because he was gay or he was black.
Yeah, like they were
both?
saying. No, they were saying if he was white, he wouldn't have got attacked.
Well,
I don't know that's true.
Is that important, Tiffany?
No, I think because you live your life like the intersections of like you being black and you being gay. So I don't think he was attacked for either one. I think he was attacked for all of it, at once. I don't think the sentence was like, I'm directly attacking you because you are a black person and that's it. And I do think in terms of like this country is going to be racist and anti-gay, whether Trump's in office or not. But I do think it's just a lack of empathy that people show towards cultures or sexualities that they do not understand, and feeling the need to act out in a violent manner, whether you could just mind your business and leave people alone.
Right. I mean, look, this conversation about was he attacked because he was black or because he was gay, I understand it. At the same time, I definitely agree with Tiffany on this. I will, though, point out, and obviously, maybe I shouldn't be the one pointing this out, but, like, sometimes when you're gay, you pass, right? People don't know that you're gay just because you're walking down the street. Obviously, people can perceive that you might be gay based on the clothes that you might be wearing, but at the end of the day, that's an assumption that somebody's making, and it's not always right. So I remember one time when I was like 17, I saw this girl, and I was like, ooh, she's cute, and my friend's like, what makes you think she's gay? And I was like, I don't know, she's wearing baggy pants. And my friend was like, oh, so you have baggy pant dar? Like, and it's like, so people have a perception of whether or not people are gay based on the way they look or dress that may not always be right, but like when you're black, and you guys can all speak on that way better than I can.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. But the question I want to ask now, just shifting gears just slightly, is a lot of people blame Trump for what's happening, but how much has like the dominant culture influences? I can tell you now, as a straight man who is trying his best to be an ally, I still say no homo. I still say pause. Kevin Hart is still making jokes about beating his son if he finds out his son is gay. How much of that kind of like cavalier attitude about it influences this like thought process or behavior towards people in that community?
I think it has a large influence on it because it just perpetuates the culture and society standards, which is not tolerant or accepting of LGBTQ people. And Kevin Hart, just to clarify, he made those comments back in 2011, and he has voiced a lot of support for Jussie Smollett, but he's also getting a lot of backlash because people are saying, well, your problematic comments are part of the problem, right? Yeah. So, I mean, it's definitely nuanced. It's definitely multi-layered here, but I think that any especially when it comes to male toxic masculinity, I think that that's something that hurts causes when we try to uplift people. And I do want to just point out that the same people who attacked Jussie for being black and for being gay are the same people who walked down Charlottesville chanting anti-Semitic remarks, and are the same people that hate everyone. They hate you if you're Jewish, if you're black, if you're gay, and a number of other things, especially if you're Muslim. So I think that this is the time for all of us, especially if we come from marginalized groups and disenfranchised backgrounds, we need to stand together and realize that hate is the problem here, and we do not want to be divided amongst ourselves.
Selena, I think you said something like, yeah, you said it, and I think that's a good way to kind of like segue. And it's like, the rest of the folks in the panel is like closing statements if you have one. Melissa, like, what are you taking away from this?
I mean, look, words matter, right? What you say matters. How you act matters. Toxic masculinity definitely plays a role in this. Homophobia and racism is ingrained in this country. We have to realize those things are interconnected. Just look, today's the Super Bowl. Literally an event that celebrates masculinity and toxic masculinity at that. Violence. I mean, the role of the game is to be violent past your opponents so that you can score points. So we have to look at the dominant culture from a bigger picture level. And that's not to say that, violence has played no role in this culture or shouldn't, and that sort of is another conversation that unfortunately we don't have the time to have today. But at the end of the day, we have to realize that these issues are interconnected, and we have to be working together to solve them, because when we are separating ourselves off into groups and being like, I'm gay, I'm black, I'm this, there's so much overlap, there's so much intersectionality between all of these things, and by separating ourselves off into different groups, we're not doing ourselves any justice, because there is power in numbers, and when we have many people together, then we can work together to solve these issues.
I also think we need to challenge ourselves when it comes to cultural norms and traditions, and unlearning bad and negative behavior. Just because they've been doing this for decades and generations doesn't make it right. And I think when I heard about the Jussie Smollett, or when you hear about certain stories, like, question yourself, like, why would you question him? Like, what makes you want to question him? Or like when Sammy said, like, I used to say, like, no homo, this, that, and the third. Or like some of my girlfriends would say, like, I would never date a queer man. Like, really sit with that and question yourself as to why you feel this way, and know that that's toxic behavior that you're perpetuating. And granted, we live in a dominant culture, but just because it's dominant and it's been happening for generations doesn't make it right. So I think we have to, like, take a step back and really challenge these cultural norms that are toxic and can lead to more situations that we don't want to see in society.
Thank you so much for that. And I want to close it out by saying today is the Super Bowl. And as Alyssa and Selena and Tiffany all mentioned, the Super Bowl, the goal of the Super Bowl is to beat the crap out of the other person so you can score points. You know who will not be playing at the Super Bowl besides Colin Kaepernick? Michael Sam. Michael Sam was the first openly gay football player to be drafted by an NFL team. And you know what? Before he came out, he was actually projected to be drafted in the first or second round. And after he came out, all these conversations started happening about how he didn't have the intangibles to be a good player, he didn't have the tools, that his sexuality would be a distraction. He got drafted in the 5th round. There was a video of him kissing his boyfriend when he won that didn't play very well by owners or people in the culture. Michael Sam is not in the NFL anymore. He was cut by the Rams. He got signed by another team. He was cut there. He tried to go to Canada, didn't make it there, and he's completely out of the league. And a lot of people said it was because of his skills. I would say it's because of the culture that we have around gay people. There were so many people intimidated by Michael Sam and who he was. There were so many people who felt insecure about who he was that they felt like that they couldn't connect with him. Same thing that happened with Jason Collins, a player who played for the Nets, played for the Lakers, and played for the Spurs, who came out of the closet and all of a sudden was retired. And we can make an argument that was about his skill set, but the larger problem was that there is still a lot of dominant cultural ideas about gay people and how it impacts masculinity. And the way it impacts masculinity is that it has none, and it takes it away from you. And when folks feel like their masculinity is being challenged, and the only way they know how to express themselves is through rage or sex, they're going to pick one or the other. And I think that played a big part in what happened to Jussie Smollett, and that played a big part in why a lot of folks refuse to speak up for Smollett. And I think that if we really want to address the issues of not just homophobia and transphobia and all the other phobias, but also racism, we got to really start having a conversation about masculinity and manliness and humanity, because we're missing the real definitions of all those things, and people are getting hurt, and a lot of people are dying. So guys, we got to call a wrap to this, but I don't feel like telling you guys how to listen to the show. I think Selena has all the tools and how you can follow up with us, so I'll let her go ahead.
Yeah, sure. I just want to thank everyone who tuned into the show today, especially via Facebook Live. We appreciate all the engagement and the comments that you guys left. Shout out to Darren Mack, Don L, and Claudia Laurent in particular. I also want to just thank and give a special shout out to all those in our podcast community who listen via Spotify, iTunes, Apple, Google, everything. If you're listening to us on podcast, SoundCloud as well, thank you. And of course, if you want to continue to support us, please do so on patreon.com. That's patreon.com/BeHeardRadio. And by supporting us, we will continue to support the causes and the issues that matter to you. On that note, happy Sunday, enjoy, and we'll see you again next Sunday, God willing.
Stanley.
Huh?
Don't forget to check out Boomerang on BET.
Oh, doesn't it come on 10/9 Central starting February 12th?
Yes, it does, on BET.
This seems supernatural.